Step back in time with me to the Tower of London, May 19, 1536. The air is thick with anticipation and a heavy sense of dread. This isn't just another day in Tudor England. It's the day a queen will lose her head. Today we're delving into the final fateful hours of Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII. What were her last words? Who witnessed this unprecedented event? And why did it have to end this way? From her meteoric rise, captivating the most powerful man in England, to her dramatic and tragic fall, Anne's story is one of ambition, love, and brutal politics. She was a woman who dared to challenge the conventions of her time, a queen who helped change the course of English history, yet her reign lasted a mere 1,000 days. Her downfall was as swift as it was shocking, orchestrated by those who once called her a friend, and signed off by the very man who once moved heaven and earth to marry her. Let's set the scene. By the early hours of May 19th, Anne Boleyn had been a prisoner in the Tower for 17 days. The charges against her were sensational and, most historians agree, completely fabricated. But the verdict was a foregone conclusion. Henry wanted a new wife, Jane Seymour, and a legitimate male heir, something Anne had failed to provide after the birth of their daughter, Elizabeth. The king was determined to erase Anne from his life, and in Tudor England, that often meant a permanent, brutal removal. Interestingly, Henry showed a small, final mercy. Instead of the traditional, often messy execution by axe, he ordered a specialist swordsman from Calais, France. This was considered a more dignified and swifter end, a nod perhaps to her former status as queen and the mother of his child. For Anne, waiting for this swordsman to arrive meant her execution was delayed by a day. Imagine the psychological torment of that extra day, knowing your fate was sealed, just waiting for the boat to cross the channel. On the morning of her execution, Anne prepared herself with remarkable composure. She attended a final mass with her jailer, Sir William Kingston, and even made a joke saying, "I hear I shall not die before noon, and I am very sorry therefore, for I thought to be dead by this time and past my pain." She then reportedly touched her neck and laughed. "I have a little neck." This dark humor in the face of death speaks volumes about her character, a woman of incredible nerve and spirit. Even at the very end, the execution was to be a private affair, held within the walls of the Tower of London on a specially built scaffold, rather than on the public spectacle of Tower Hill. Yet, private was a relative term. Around 1,000 people were there to witness the fall of the Queen. This crowd included key figures of the court, like Thomas Cromwell, the architect of her downfall, and Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, the King's brother-in-law. Their presence was a clear message. This is what happens to those who displease the King. Dressed in a grey damask gown with a crimson kirtle underneath, Anne Boleyn walked to the scaffold. She wasn't a weeping, broken woman. Eyewitnesses described her as calm and dignified. She carried a prayer book and was accompanied by her ladies-in-waiting, who were openly sobbing. Anne, however, maintained her composure, addressing the crowd with a carefully worded speech. Her final words are incredibly poignant. She didn't protest her innocence or condemn her enemies. To do so would have been dangerous for her family and, most importantly, for her daughter, Elizabeth. Instead, she played the part of the loyal subject, said, "Good Christian people, I am come hither to die, for according to the law, and by the law I am judged to die, and therefore I will speak nothing against it." She continued, "I am come hither to accuse no man, nor to speak anything of that, whereof I am accused and condemned to die. But I pray God save the king and send him long to reign over you. For a gentler nor a more merciful prince was there never, and to me he was ever a good, a gentle and sovereign lord." Calling Henry merciful was, of course, the ultimate irony, but it was a necessary final act of political prudence. Finally, she concluded, "And if any person will meddle of my cause, I require them to judge the best. And thus I take my leave of the world and of you all, and I heartily desire you all to pray for me. O Lord, have mercy on me. To God I commend my soul." With these words, she knelt. Her ladies removed her ermine mantle and headdress, and one blindfolded her. She kept repeating, "To Jesus Christ I commend my soul. Lord Jesus, receive my soul." The French swordsman, as was custom, reportedly distracted her, crying out, "Where is my sword?" Before striking it was over in a single silent stroke. The aftermath was just as chilling. There was no coffin ready for the former Queen of England. Her body and head were wrapped in an arrow chest and hastily buried in an unmarked grave in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula within the Tower walls. It was a deeply ignominious end for a woman who had once been the center of the European world. Just one day later, King Henry VIII was formally betrothed to Jane Seymour. He married her 10 days after Anne's execution. The chapter was closed. But was it Anne Boleyn's legacy would outlive them all? Her greatest triumph came posthumously through her daughter, Elizabeth I, who would become one of England's greatest monarchs. Elizabeth rarely spoke of her mother, but she honored her memory in subtle ways, wearing her jewelry and elevating her Boleyn relatives at court. The Protestant faith that Anne had championed became the bedrock of Elizabethan England. So, the story of May 19, 1536, is more than just a gruesome execution. It's a story of power, betrayal, and the incredible resilience of one woman's spirit in the face of an unimaginable fate. Anne Boleyn played the Game of Thrones and lost in the most brutal way possible, but her legacy, carried on by her daughter, would ultimately shape the future of a nation. Her 1,000 days as queen ended in tragedy, but her influence echoes through the centuries. What do you think? Wasn't a victim, a villain, or a brilliant woman who simply flew too close to the sun? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most compelling moments. We'll see you in the next video.